Hey there, and welcome to Tales by June, where hearts break, heal, and sometimes seek revenge. Let's begin today's story.
The office buzzed like a well-oiled machine, glass walls reflecting fluorescent lights and ambition. At her desk by the window, Meera sat hunched over a stack of reports, her fingers flying over the keyboard like the clatter of wings. She was the first one in every morning and often the last to leave. Her work, meticulous, data-rich, and intuitive, was the backbone of every successful project the team boasted about in boardrooms. But when the time came for recognition, the applause always veered left, straight to Neha. Neha, the charming manipulator with a polished smile, perfect hair, and a knack for spinning Meera's work into stories that made her look like the hero. Meera never corrected her. She smiled tightly, her eyes burning with truths she swallowed daily, her pride quietly folded under her spreadsheets. The rooftop shimmered with golden string lights, casting a soft, surreal glow on the crowd below. Crystal glasses clinked, laughter mingled with soft jazz music, and the scent of hors d'oeuvres hung in the cool night air. A small stage had been set at the far end, flanked by tall heaters and fluted champagne towers. The city skyline blinked behind them like a constellation in motion. Meera stood near the back, a silent figure in a modest navy blue kirtle with minimal makeup and tired eyes. She clutched a glass of sparkling water, watching from the margins as her co-workers sipped expensive wine and threw their heads back in theatrical laughter. In the center of it all was Neha, draped in scarlet silk, her hair in perfect waves, a wine glass in one hand and a designer clutch in the other. "Honestly," Neha said with a smirk to a group of colleagues, tilting her glass slightly toward Meera, "I don't know how she even got hired. She's like a human Excel sheet, neat, color-coded, and completely incapable of imagination." The group laughed, not cruelly, but with the casual dismissiveness of those too comfortable in their hierarchy. "Maybe she's just playing the long game," another colleague joked. "Long game?" Neha quirked an eyebrow. "She's been here for 3 years and still doesn't know how to talk to the board without stuttering. If I were that invisible, I'd consider becoming a ghost full-time." Laughter again. Meera heard every word. She stared at the bubbles in her glass like they held the power to drown her thoughts. Then the CEO took the stage. "Everyone," he called, raising a hand, "tonight, we celebrate excellence, innovation, leadership, and one of our brightest minds." He paused dramatically. "Neha Kapoor." The applause was thunderous. Neha stepped up, patting false modesty from her shoulders like glitter. "Wow," she said into the mic, her voice smooth and sharp like a diamond edge. "I'm honored. But let's be real. It's not just about hard work. It's about vision, strategy, boldness. Some of us create maps. Others just follow them." She glanced toward Meera and smiled sweetly, like a queen offering crumbs to a servant. "I mean, you can't teach instinct. Some people just have it. And you know what? I'm proud of that. I'm proud of not being afraid to take charge, to lead. While others, well, they just keep waiting for instructions." The crowd laughed. Not because it was funny, but because no one wanted to be the only one who didn't. After the speech, Meera tried to leave quietly, but the boss caught her on the way out. "Meera," he said, resting a heavy hand on her shoulder, "you really should observe Neha more. She knows how to stand out. You, on the other hand, seem to always fade into the background. At this rate, you'll be a back-office statistic. Step up, or step aside." His words hit harder than the champagne. She nodded mutely, her throat tight, her heart cracking in slow, quiet pieces. The city's night was colder now. The buzz of the party faded behind her as Meera walked home, her heels clicking against the concrete like echoes of disappointment. The streetlights flickered above like indifferent stars. She passed glass buildings and neon signs, all the things that had once dazzled her when she first arrived, full of wonder and resolve. Now, they looked like glass cages. She opened the door to her modest one-room flat, a worn-out studio with second-hand furniture and walls that seemed to sigh with her. She dropped her bag, kicked off her heels, and sat on the edge of her bed, still in her party clothes. Tears came, slow and uninvited. Her eyes drifted to the small photo frame on her desk. A faded picture of her family, her father grinning with chalk on his face, her mother in her cotton sari, arms around the shoulders of her younger siblings, who looked up at her like she was the sun. Meera was born in a one-room mud house in a sun-drenched village nestled between emerald fields and rust-colored mountains. Her father, a school teacher with ink-stained hands and dreams bigger than the sky, taught her to read from tattered books under the mango tree. Her mother, a quiet force of nature, stitched clothes and courage in equal measure, teaching Meera that dignity was worn like armor. Her two younger siblings worshipped her. She was their lighthouse. She remembered running barefoot down the muddy lanes of her village, chasing paper kites. Her father's voice reading out poems in the evening. Her mother folding school uniforms with loving precision. The nights when the rain poured and the roof leaked, and they all huddled under a blanket, laughing over ghost stories. When she passed her board exams with top marks, the entire village celebrated like it was a wedding. With trembling hands and teary eyes, her father sold his prized goats to buy her a one-way ticket to the city. The journey from village dust to city steel was paved with sacrifice. She worked in diners, tutored rich kids, and studied under streetlights. Every rupee she saved, she sent home. Her dream was clear, to one day buy her family a real house. One with a roof that wouldn't leak, walls that didn't crumble, and windows that looked out over something more than just struggle. She looked around at her tiny flat. The cracked tile near the sink. The stack of unpaid bills. The ceiling fan that made more noise than wind. And then, the party replayed in her mind. The laughter. The insults. Neha's voice like honeyed poison. The boss's dismissal. She clenched her fists. For years, she had believed that goodness and hard work were enough. But tonight, she understood. To win in their world, she needed more than effort. She needed strategy. She needed fire. And she had it. Buried under shame and silence, it was still there, smoldering quietly. She stood, walked to her desk, opened her laptop. The phoenix does not ask permission to rise. The next morning, the light outside was pale and unforgiving. Meera hadn't slept. Her laptop still hummed quietly on the desk, the screen glowing with the outline of a half-written resignation letter. She stared at it blankly, knowing the risk, knowing she couldn't leave without a plan. Not now. Not when her family still called every Sunday asking, "Are you eating well?" without realizing how tight the answer was around her throat. Then, she remembered someone. A memory like a hand reaching out through the fog. Ananya, the ex-colleague who had left the company 2 years ago to start her own firm. Smart, warm, fiercely driven. One of the few people who had seen Meera, really seen her, for her work, her ideas, her fire. Her hands trembled slightly as she picked up the phone. Hello, Ananya's voice was alert, steady, unmistakably her. "Hi, it's Meera," she said softly. There was a beat of silence, then warmth bloomed on the line. "Meera, I was just thinking about you. How are you? It's been, what, forever?" Meera tried to smile. "Yeah, it's been a while. I saw Neha's little performance online last night," Ananya said bluntly. "One of your colleagues posted the party highlights. That speech. God, it was painful to watch. You okay?" Meera hesitated, then exhaled. "No, I'm not." Ananya's tone shifted, serious now. "Want to talk about it?" And so she did. She told Anania everything, the constant erasure of her contributions, the applause Neha stole with manicured hands, the boss's cruel words, and the laughter that followed her like a shadow. As she spoke, her voice broke in places, but she kept going. You know the worst part, Meera said, eyes burning. I stayed late every night. I made those projects work. I was the one who dug through data at 3 a.m. while she went home to post selfies. But last night they all laughed at me like I was a joke. There was silence on the other end, the kind that crackled with unspoken rage. I know you did all the work, Anania said finally, her voice tight. I saw it with my own eyes back then. I remember your strategy for the Motive Tech deal. You ran the whole pitch while Neha just took the mic at the end. Meera didn't reply. She didn't have to. Listen, Anania continued, her voice gathering force. I've been building something. My firm is small, but growing fast. And I've got this opening, senior strategy led. I didn't fill it because I was waiting for the right person. I think it's you. Meera blinked, and sure she'd heard right. I'm offering you more than just a job, Anania said gently. I'm offering you space, respect, a seat at the table that no one will ever have to fight to keep. I know your worth. I always have. The only question is, are you ready to stop letting them define you? Meera was silent. Her fingers curled tightly around the phone. I want you here, Meera, Anania said, softer now. I want them to know what they threw away. Meera looked out the window, past the cluttered rooftops of the city, toward a sky beginning to turn gold. For the first time in weeks, she felt the weight in her chest shift, not vanish, but move. Like curtain lifting. The phoenix doesn't rise because someone tells it to. It rises because it must. She wiped her eyes. Send me the details, she said, her voice low but certain. Let's build something better. Meera walked into the office the next morning with the kind of calm that made people pause. Her steps were measured, her face unreadable. She wore her usual simple attire, but today there was something different, a quiet power in the way she moved, like someone who had stopped asking permission to exist. She waited until her boss arrived, coffee in hand, distractedly typing into his phone. She stepped into his glass-walled office and placed the envelope on his desk. What's this, he asked, barely glancing up. My resignation, Meera said evenly. He finally looked at her, a flicker of surprise passing over his face before it settled into a dismissive smile. Oh, well, I suppose that's for the best. She stood silently, absorbing his indifference like it was expected rain. You haven't really shown much initiative lately, he added, sipping his coffee. Not like Neha. I mean, look at her. Sharp, social, presentable. You could have learned from her. Meera's lips twitched, but not into a smile. Thank you for the opportunity, she said, turning to leave. The door closed softly behind her. No theatrics. No goodbye emails. Just silence. But silence, when deliberate, echoes louder than applause. By the time the office clock hit 10 a.m., the whispers had started. Did you hear Meera resigned? What? Seriously, yeah. Left without a word. Just handed in her notice and vanished. Neha was in the middle of sipping her almond milk latte when she heard it. She froze mid-sip. What do you mean she resigned? She asked the nearby analyst, masking her panic with a too wide smile. Yup. Yesterday. Boss said she didn't seem to fit the pace here, the analyst replied. But still, weird, right? She was always so quiet, but damn good at what she did. Neha tried to laugh. Well, I guess some people can't handle pressure, but as the voices around her grew, something began gnawing at her confidence. Because Meera hadn't stormed out. She hadn't cried. She hadn't tried to fight for her place. She had just left on her own terms. That night, Neha sat in her apartment, the city lights blinking through her penthouse windows. Her reflection in the glass looked more distorted than usual, tired eyes, tight jaw, the lipstick smudged at the corners. She had spent years climbing, smiling at the right people, speaking in the right tone, dressing, acting, thinking the part. But the foundation beneath her success, that quiet, overlooked girl she had leaned on, was gone now. And with Meera gone, something else had started to crumble, the work. Her current project was a mess. The numbers weren't aligning. The client had called twice asking questions she couldn't answer. The data analysis was wrong, and she had no idea how to fix it. Because Meera had always fixed it. Quietly, efficiently, invisibly. Neha opened her inbox and stared at the files Meera had last worked on. There were no instructions, no trail to follow. Just clinical precision she didn't know how to replicate. For the first time, Neha felt something she hadn't in years. Fear. Not of losing status, but of being exposed. Her phone buzzed. A message from the boss. Client meeting tomorrow. Make sure you're ready. She stared at the screen. What if she failed? What if everyone saw she wasn't the genius she pretended to be? What if Meera had left not in defeat, but in strategy? And then another thought struck her, cold and unrelenting. Where did Meera go? The new office wasn't as tall or sprawling as the glass tower she had left behind, but it breathed a different kind of air, one laced with purpose rather than pretense. Sunlight poured through wide windows that framed the city like art. The walls weren't sterile or grey, but filled with whiteboards scribbled with bold ideas, pinned sketches, and sticky notes in a rainbow of possibility. Every desk had life to it, succulents, coffee mugs, books with dog-eared corners. Meera stepped in, her steps light yet grounded. Her outfit wasn't corporate armor anymore. It was comfort, soft linen and quiet elegance. She looked around and smiled, truly smiled, for the first time in what felt like years. Ananya greeted her at the entrance with open arms. "Welcome to where you should have always been," she said with a grin. They walked past the bullpen, past a wall that proudly displayed the startup's milestones, funding rounds, campaigns, handwritten thank you notes from clients. "This place is small," Ananya said, "but it's built on sweat and soul. And I wanted people with vision, not volume. That's why I waited for you." Meera looked around, soaking in the creativity humming in the air. "I didn't know what freedom would feel like," she murmured. Ananya smiled knowingly. "It feels like breathing without apology." Later that day, Meera sat at her new desk, glass and wood, sun-kissed, facing a pinboard that would soon hold her plans. Her name already etched on a sleek placard, Meera V, strategy-led. Her new team gathered for a quick introduction, not with stiff handshakes but with laughter and welcome. There were no fake smiles here, no daggered compliments. When someone asked her about her approach to campaign pivots, they listened, actually listened, to her answer. She felt seen, valued, lit from within. That evening, Meera took the metro home, a gentle smile curving her lips the whole way. The exhaustion in her bones was still there, but now it was the kind that comes after a day of doing what you love, not surviving what you hate. She entered her little flat and tossed her bag aside, almost dancing to the corner where her phone rested. She pressed the speed dial for home. The ringing barely finished before her mother's voice came through, warm and hurried. "Meera Beta, you called early. Everything okay?" Meera laughed, her throat catching slightly. "Amma, everything's more than okay." Then her father's voice joined, staticky but full of joy. "Meera, how was the new job? Did they treat you well? Did you eat?" She sank into her chair, closed her eyes. "Appa, I had a desk with my name on it. people ask me about my ideas. And there's this huge window. Sunlight just spills in, like the paddy fields back home. It's beautiful. It's mine. A pause, and then her mother's voice cracked slightly. We always knew you'd make something of yourself. Meera wiped her cheek. And you were right. I'm not invisible anymore. I'm not just someone behind the scenes. I'm leading. I'm a Appa. I think this is the place that'll help me build that house we talked about. The one with the red roof and a swing in the front porch. Her father chuckled, voice thick with emotion. Make it 2 swings, Meera. One for you and one for the little ones when they visit. Her mother chimed in, teasing gently. Don't forget my mango trees. And your father wants a room just for his old books? Done, Meera whispered. I'll build it all. For a moment, they were all quiet, connected by more than a call. Bound by dreams, distance, and the soft, unshakable hook that had always carried them forward. The glass boardroom was filled with filtered morning light, but Neha could feel her skin prickle with heat. The screen behind her displayed the presentation slides she had scrambled to piece together the night before, half-finished data, padded buzzwords, and a hollow strategy that even she didn't believe in. Across the table sat Mr. Aditya Khanna, the high-stakes client known for precision, not patience. His fingers tapped an unimpressed rhythm against the polished wood table. Neha swallowed hard. So as you can see, our growth projections align with market forecasts, and Mr. Khanna raised a hand, silencing her mid-sentence. These charts, he said coldly, are outdated by 3/4. This campaign is built on stale data. A silence heavy enough to crush lungs fell over the room. Her boss, seated at the far end of the table, leaned forward. Neha, he said slowly, eyes narrowing. Did you even review the analytics team's last report? She flinched. I thought, you thought, he snapped. You're leading this campaign and you didn't validate your foundation. I didn't have the latest files. She tried, glancing at the assistant beside her. Meera used to. The boss's voice cut through her like a blade. Meera's gone. And clearly, so is the competence in this department. A whisper of embarrassment passed through the others seated at the table. Mr. Khanna stood abruptly. This has been a waste of time. We'll be reviewing other agencies. Don't bother with a follow-up. The door shut behind him like a gavel. Neha sat frozen, her face burning. The silence after their exit wasn't kind. It was suffocating. Her boss exhaled sharply, rubbed his temples, and muttered without even looking at her. Start learning from your mistakes, Neha. Or this company will start learning to move on without you. At the other end of the city, sunlight filtered in through wide windows as Meera stood in a well-tailored navy kurta, confidence lacing every movement. She stood beside Ananya, both of them facing the client, a dynamic startup in sustainable living. The CEO, a young woman with sharp eyes and a sharper vision, leaned forward. Your pitch was refreshing. Not just numbers, but soul. Strategy with substance. You've captured who we are. Meera nodded, her voice steady. Because we don't believe in copy-paste campaigns. We believe in living strategies. Just like your brand, Ananya grinned at her. That's why Meera's leading this one. There was a beat of silence. Then the CEO smiled. Let's move forward. You've got the project. The room erupted in handshakes and congratulatory murmurs. Later that afternoon, Ananya stood at the center of the bullpen holding a cupcake in each hand. Everyone she called, voice filled with excitement. We just landed our biggest client yet. Thanks to Meera, the team burst into cheers, applause echoing through the office. Meera stood bashfully in the middle, cheeks flushed, trying not to cry as people clapped her on the back. Her teammate Rhea winked. Look at you, boss lady. Are we getting cupcakes and a half-day dev? The office designer leaned over. I only helped with the pitch deck fonts. I demand 5% of the credit and lifetime supply of pani puri. Meera laughed, her heart swelling. Deal, but you'll have to design the menu for my future housewarming party. They all owed in response, teasing and tossing paper confetti someone randomly had on their desk. Ananya pulled Meera aside, handing her a sparkling grape soda. You've just rewritten your story, she said. This is the beginning of your chapter. Meera took the bottle, raised it gently. To chapters that rise from ash. The clink of glass on glass sealed the moment. The fluorescent lights in the conference room buzzed faintly above, cold and impersonal, an ironic mirror of Neha's current standing in the office. She sat at the head of the table, nervously scrolling through her tablet as the team filed in. Her hands, once manicured with confidence, trembled slightly. The scent of peppermint coffee from someone's desk only reminded her of Meera, how she used to bring her a cup without being asked. Her boss entered last, face tense, sleeves rolled up. He sat down without greeting, opened a folder, and slid a document across the table toward her. This, he said flatly, is the feedback report from the client. The one you lost. Neha looked down. Her name was mentioned 6 times. None of it good. I thought I could fix it with the second proposal, she started. Neha, the boss interrupted, voice rising. Do you understand what this means? They're pulling out. A 6-month contract, gone. Her voice faltered. I wasn't given enough support. And let's be honest, Meera used her. He slammed his palm flat on the table. Enough with the Meera excuses. She's gone. You lobbied for her promotion. You got the spotlight. This is what you've done with it. She shrank into her chair. He leaned closer, eyes narrowed. Let me be absolutely clear. One more mistake, and it's not just the client who will be leaving. Silence followed him as he stormed out. Back at her desk, Neha typed furiously, trying to salvage what was left of her project folder. Around her, the murmurs were no longer behind closed doors. They were out in the open, like smoke spreading from a fire she couldn't smother. Did you hear she blamed the intern for that report mix-up she used to be untouchable? Now she's just flailing. Meera carried her. We all knew it. I give it a month. Tops. The laughter was low, mean, and sharp. Neha snapped her head around. Say it to my face. Why don't you, Ravi, a junior strategist, looked up from his chair? We didn't say anything you don't already know. Neha. Maybe you should stop trying to climb and start learning again. Pooja, the social media lead, chimed in, mock sweet. Or maybe you should call Meera and ask her for a how-to guide. Neha stood, chair screeching back. You think you're so clever. You all worshipped me months ago, back when you had substance, Ravi replied coolly. Not just sparkle, her fists clenched. You think she's better than me. She's average. Quiet little village girl who barely spoke unless spoken to. And yet, Pooja interrupted, rising from her chair. She built your campaigns while you took bows. Now she's gone, and your act's falling apart. Neha stared at them, breath heaving, skin burning, eyes wide with panic that now looked almost feral. The room watched her unravel, not with pity, but with cold acknowledgement. The fall had begun, and she had no safety net left. She stormed out, heels clicking like war drums, unaware that behind her, someone whispered, even queens fall. But Meera. She flew. 6 months had passed since Meera stepped into her new role, and the woman standing on the construction site of her new home was a far cry from the quiet, overlooked employee who once sat in the shadows. She wore a well-tailored blazer over a crisp white shirt, her hair pulled back in a neat bun, and her posture spoke of someone who had learned to stand tall, no longer apologizing for her space in the world. The site buzzed with activity as workers hammered, measured, and laid the foundation for what would soon be a house that was as much a symbol of her success as a home for her family. Meera walked around the foundation, her steps measured but confident, speaking with the foreman, checking the plans, and making small adjustments to the layout that had once been a distant dream. She glanced over at the garden area, a patch of dirt she had insisted on planting with mango trees and jasmine vines, all her mother's favorites. It wasn't just a garden, it was a promise to herself, to her family, that this wasn't a dream built on borrowed time or luck. It was hers, all of it. As she stood there, the sunlight warming her face, Ananya pulled up in a car, rolling down her window with a wide grin. "I still can't believe this place is yours." From the intern to the owner, "How does that feel?" Meera smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "It's surreal. I used to look at houses like these in magazines, never imagining I'd actually live in one. I knew you'd do it," Ananya said, her eyes softening with genuine pride. "You were always more than you gave yourself credit for. This house. This is just the beginning." As Meera stood there, watching the workers, she felt a sense of peace she had never known. She had worked hard for this moment. Late nights, challenging projects, overcoming self-doubt, and pushing forward when the world tried to hold her back. Back in the office, the startup she now led was thriving. The team had grown, and Meera had fostered an environment of collaboration and growth. She no longer had to fight to be heard. Her voice carried weight, and her ideas shaped the company's direction. Her boss, now an ally, often turned to her for guidance. No longer was she the quiet worker in the corner. She was the leader, the strategist everyone looked up to. Meera's hands trembled with excitement as the taxi bumped along the familiar roads toward her village. She had kept her secret for months, and now, as the moment neared, her family's first trip to the city, she couldn't help but feel the excitement bubble up inside her. The surprise she'd planned for them was almost within reach. The village greeted her with the same rustic charm it always had. The air was thick with the scent of jasmine and earth, the sun hanging low in the sky, casting a golden glow on the dirt roads. Her parents' house was just as it had always been, small, humble, but filled with warmth and love. Meera, her mother, Amma, greeted her with open arms as she stepped out of the taxi, her eyes bright with joy. "Look at you, Beta. I've missed you so much," Meera smiled, her heart swelling with emotion. "I've missed you too, Amma. But today, I have something special to tell you." Her father, Appa, adjusted his glasses, squinting at her in curiosity. "What is it, Meera?" "Something important." Meera's voice softened as she glanced toward the small house behind them. "I've been thinking about something for a while. You've worked so hard for me, for all of us, and now, I want to give you something back. I've made some changes." Her siblings ran out from the backyard, excited to see their older sister. "What's going on, Dee Dee?" "What did you buy us this time?" her younger brother asked playfully. Meera laughed, ruffling his hair. "You'll see," she said, a mysterious twinkle in her eye. "Pack your things. We're going to the city." Her mother's eyes widened in shock. "To the city? But we've never been. What will we do there?" "I've arranged everything," Meera replied, her voice calm but filled with an inner strength. "I want you all to come with me. I've got something waiting for you." Her father smiled softly, nodding with pride. "Whatever you've done, Meera, it's always been for us. We'll follow you anywhere." And so, within hours, Meera's family packed up their modest belongings, not knowing what awaited them. The ride to the city was filled with chatter, her parents excited but still confused about what Meera had planned. The taxi, packed with their luggage, zipped past the fields, over the hills, and finally into the bustling streets of the city. As the taxi pulled into the city, Meera's heart raced. The towering buildings, the neon signs flashing brightly in the night, the rush of traffic, it was a stark contrast to the quiet, slow pace of their village. Her parents, sitting in the back, were mesmerized by the sights outside, but Meera could see their confusion deepening. "Where are we going?" Meera, her mother asked, voice tinged with both excitement and nervousness. "Just wait," Meera smiled, feeling the thrill of the surprise. The taxi drove on, cutting through the heart of the city, until it reached a quieter, residential neighborhood filled with independent houses, each with their own yard and garden. The building that Meera had picked was a large, beautiful, independent house with a garden out front and a private driveway that gave it a secluded, peaceful feel. Everything she had dreamed of for her family. The taxi slowed to a stop, and Meera helped her family out. She watched as they stepped onto the sidewalk, staring at the house in front of them, clearly confused. Her father looked up at the towering house. "Where are we? This is it," Meera said, her voice thick with emotion. "This is my house." "Our house?" Her mother's face froze in disbelief. "Your house?" "But..." Meera smiled, feeling a wave of pride rush over her. "I've worked hard for this. All the late nights, the struggles. And now, it's ours." They stood there for a moment, unsure whether to believe it, but Meera took her mother's hand and led the way toward the front door of the house. The garden outside was beautifully landscaped, with a manicured lawn, flowering plants in vibrant colors, and a series of delicate pathways made of small, smooth stones leading up to the entrance. A majestic mango tree stood proudly in one corner, offering shade with its wide, green leaves. When they stepped inside, Meera's family gasped. The living room was spacious and opulent, with high ceilings and large windows that flooded the room with soft natural light. The walls were adorned with tasteful, contemporary artwork, and the furniture was sleek and luxurious. Plush sofas in muted tones, a glass coffee table that reflected the room's elegant lighting, and a grand chandelier hanging from the ceiling. The room felt both sophisticated and warm, a perfect blend of style and comfort. To the side, there was a cozy prayer room, a small, quiet space with soft lighting, a carved wooden prayer mat, and delicate golden idols placed on an antique wooden shelf. Incense burned gently in the corner, giving the room a peaceful aura. Her father slowly stepped toward the windows, taking in the view of the garden and the quiet neighborhood beyond. "This place is incredible," he said, his voice soft with awe. "It's so big, Meera. You really did it." Her mother was still silent, her eyes scanning every inch of the house, clearly in disbelief. "But how did you manage all this? I couldn't have done it without you, Amma," Meera replied softly. "All the sacrifices you made, this is for you. For all of us." Her younger siblings rushed to explore the garden, running through the grass and chasing each other. "Didi, look. We have our own yard," her little brother shouted, laughing as he spun around in circles. Meera's mother finally spoke, her voice trembling. This is the life we never thought we could have." Meera smiled, her heart full. She walked her mother through the kitchen, which had marble countertops and high-end appliances, and then led her outside to the garden, where flowers of all colors bloomed and a small, decorative fountain added a touch of serenity to the space. "This is where you'll plant your mango trees, Amma," Meera said, her voice thick with emotion. "And jasmine. Just like we always dreamed." Her mother's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "You've made all our dreams come true, Beta." Her father, now overcome with emotion, joined them in the garden. "You've created a life here, Meera. This isn't just a house. It's a home. A real home." Meera's heart swelled with happiness as she embraced her parents. The life she had promised them was finally unfolding, and it was everything she had hoped for. As they stood there, surrounded by the garden and the house they now called their own, Meera knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter. Later that evening, After a long day of unpacking and exploring, Meera sat with her family around the dining table, their laughter filling the air. The sound of joy, love, and contentment that filled the room was a dream Meera had held for years, a dream that was now finally realized. "Meera, we never thought we could have something like this," her father said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "You've given us more than we could ever repay." Meera smiled, her heart overflowing with gratitude. "It's all for you, Appa. You've made me who I am." This is just the beginning. Her siblings eagerly made plans for their new rooms, laughing and debating who would get which space, while her mother sat beside her, the two of them sharing a quiet, emotional moment. As the stars twinkled outside, Meera felt a deep sense of peace. She had finally created the life she had promised her family. The struggles, the hardships, they had all led to this. This house was not just a building, it was a symbol of everything they had overcome together, and everything they would continue to build as a family. The convention center was a towering glass marvel nestled in the heart of the city, its reflective surfaces gleaming under the soft morning sun. It was the annual Business Excellence and Innovation Conference, a prestigious event where the country's brightest minds gathered. Meera stood outside, dressed in an elegant teal sari with silver embroidery, her poise reflecting the transformation she had undergone over the past year. Beside her, Ananya, clad in a sophisticated navy blue pantsuit, adjusted her ID badge and grinned at Meera. "Ready to conquer the world again?" partner Ananya teased. Meera chuckled softly. This time, not alone. The moment they entered the grand conference hall, Meera's family, trailing closely behind, was rendered speechless. The chandeliers sparkled like stars overhead. The massive LED screen displayed images of top CEOs, entrepreneurs, and innovators. The scent of polished wood and fresh lilies filled the air. "Appa, welcome to my world," Meera whispered, holding her mother's hand. Her father blinked away tears. "We never imagined you'd bring us here. Look at this place, Meera. It feels like a dream." Her younger brother wandered toward the press corner, marveling at the media setup. Her younger sister, excited and wide-eyed, clung to their mother's arm, whispering, "Didi's really a star now." Her mother clasped her hands in prayer, murmuring, "Thank you, God, for this day." Later that evening, the lights dimmed and the host's voice echoed through the speakers. "And now, the Rising Star Innovators of the Year award goes to Ananya Rao and Meera Venkatesan of Luminaire Consultancy." The spotlight fell on them as applause thundered through the hall. Meera and Ananya walked up the stage, their faces glowing with pride and disbelief. As they accepted the gleaming crystal trophy, cameras flashed, immortalizing the moment. "This isn't just our award," Meera said into the mic, her voice steady but emotional. "It's for every girl from a small town who'd dared to dream. For every person who was told they weren't good enough. Today we stand here not because we were lucky, but because we worked through pain, rejection, and silence. And we rose," Ananya added, "and to our families, especially Meera's, who are here with us tonight, this is your victory too. Thank you for raising women who won't give up." From the audience, Meera's father clapped through tears, whispering to his wife, "Look at our daughter. She's shining like a star." Her mother covered her mouth, overwhelmed. All those nights she stayed up studying under the kerosene lamp. It was worth it. Every second of it. Her brother looked up proudly. "Didi's a rock star," her sister clapped enthusiastically, beaming. "One day, I'll be on that stage too. Just like her." After the award, as Meera and Ananya mingled with the crowd, a familiar voice sliced through the air. "Meera, is that really you?" They turned to see Mr. Batra, their former boss, surrounded by ex-colleagues from their old company. His face was caught somewhere between a smile and shock. Neha stood beside him, her expression unreadable, lips pressed into a thin line. Meera met his gaze evenly. Good evening, Mr. Batra. It's been a long time. He cleared his throat. Yes, well, congratulations on the award. Quite the achievement. Ananaya smirked slightly. Thank you. We were just doing what we were always capable of. One of the ex-colleagues leaned in, whispering, You look different, Meera. So confident. You really made it. Meera smiled. Everyone has their time. Mine just took a little longer to arrive. Neha finally stepped forward. Her face was pale, her usual sharpness subdued. You've changed, Meera. In a good way. I almost didn't recognize you. That happens when you stop surviving and start living, Meera replied calmly. There was a pause before Neha spoke again, her voice softer than it had ever been. I know I wasn't fair to you back then. I let my insecurities hurt someone who didn't deserve it. I'm sorry, Meera looked into her eyes, long and steady. Thank you for saying that. It means something. And I hope you find your own path too. We all had battles, Neha. Some just look different, and Anaya added gently. We all deserve second chances. What matters is what we do with them. Neha gave a small nod, stepping back as Meera and Anaya were called for an interview. As they walked away, Meera felt a sense of closure settle in her heart. Not cold, not triumphant, but peaceful. The night had been one of full circles, of redemption, of dreams fulfilled not just with awards, but with grace. In that moment, Meera realized, true victory is not just in rising, but in rising with kindness. The morning sun rose like a blessing over Meera's home, its golden rays kissing the delicate lace curtains and casting soft patterns onto the ivory walls. The air buzzed with the spirit of festivity. Sandalwood incense curled in the air, blending with the aromas of freshly made ladoos, kheer, and coconut barfi. In the kitchen, the sounds of laughter mixed with the rhythmic clang of ladles and the occasional scolding from Amma to her younger son for sneaking sweets from the tray. Meera, wrapped in a rich crimson and gold Kanchivaram sari, her long hair adorned with jasmine, moved gracefully from one room to the other. She helped the decorators pin marigold strings on pillars, adjusted the placement of brass diyas, and oversaw every minute detail with the meticulousness of a woman who once dared to dream beyond her station. Her younger sister giggled as she struggled to hang fairy lights over the main door, calling out to her father for help, while her brother danced to Bollywood tunes blaring softly from the living room speakers. The prayer room, small yet sanctified, stood like a jewel box nestled in the heart of the home. Inside, the marble floor was strewn with rose petals and turmeric-dusted rice grains. A silver idol of goddess Lakshmi sat resplendent in the soft glow of the oil lamps, flanked by brass bells and copper calishams. The family gathered in silence, palms folded, eyes closed, their chants resonating deep within their souls as the pujari led them in invoking the goddess of prosperity. As evening fell, the home transformed into a shimmering palace. Strings of warm lights cascaded down the walls, reflecting off glass lanterns and gleaming decor. Children's laughter echoed as sparklers fizzed and popped in the garden. The scent of gunpowder mixed with ghee and rose water. Sweets were passed around on silver trays, and firecrackers bloomed in the night sky. In the garden, a gentle breeze rustled the leaves as the family relaxed after the puja. The swing creaked rhythmically as Meera's brother and sister competed to push each other higher. Their father reclined with a cup of filter coffee, newspaper half forgotten in his lap, a soft smile on his face. Their mother hummed an old devotional tune as she lovingly watered the hibiscus and jasmine plants by the gate. Appa, Meera said, settling beside him on the bench, her sari shimmering in the moonlight. Do you ever miss the village? He looked around at the garden, the lights, the house. I miss the quiet sometimes. But what we have here, this peace, this joy, it's because of you. You brought us all here. Her sister plopped down beside them, resting her head on Meera's shoulder. This house feels like a dream. Didi, How did you do all this? Meera smiled, emotion catching in her throat. One long night at a time. One more rejection, one more meeting, one more prayer. I just kept walking, even when I was scared. Their mother joined them, placing a hand on Meera's head. And look where you walked us to. From a mud floor hut to this home of light. Goddess Lakshmi didn't just enter the house today, Kanna. She entered when you lit your first diya in the city, alone. Tears shimmered in Meera's eyes. She looked at her family, the home, the garden where laughter bloomed like marigolds. I never really walked alone. You were always there, in my memories, my reasons. As the night deepened and firecrackers danced in the sky like fallen stars reborn, Meera stepped onto the terrace, the city stretching out in front of her like a galaxy of lights. The cool wind brushed against her face, carrying distant echoes of village nights, soft cricket chirps, the clink of her mother's bangles, the smell of wood smoke. She thought of the Meera who once sat in a crowded bus, a file of dreams clutched tight to her chest. Who skipped lunch to meet deadlines, who smiled through tears at office corridors that echoed with gossip and betrayal. She thought of the girl who once wore borrowed clothes to interviews and dreamed of giving her family a home they could call their own. And then, she thought of now. Of Ananaya's warm laughter, her team's loyalty, the clients who trusted her, the awards on her shelf, and her family's love wrapped around her like an heirloom shawl. She had been broken, yes. But like a phoenix, she had risen, stronger, brighter. Hers was a story not of vengeance, but of victory. She turned and saw her family downstairs, lighting the last row of diyas. Their faces radiant, their joy unshaken. Meera whispered to the stars, her voice full and free. We are finally home. Her story had begun in silence. But now, it would echo forever in light.